Welcome to DucBloke Tuning and Finding the Sweet Spot. Grab a cup of coffee and like and subscribe.
And welcome back to DucBloke Tuning, Finding the Sweet Spot. Today I'm going to review the survey that I sent out day before Christmas. So we've had nearly 200 respondents reply to the survey, and I've got to tell you, I'm really impressed with the response because I've had 100% completion on every single one of the respondents, which is very rare. So people have stuck around through the survey. There's like 26 questions, including your name, 27. Really did a great job. Thank you so much for everyone that's responded to the survey. There's still time. It's going to close. I didn't tell you this Christmas Eve. It's going to close on New Year's Day. So that's the last day to win the BASN BMaster 5. And I'll send that anywhere in the world. I'll use a random number generator to figure out who's won that based on the number of respondents, and then we'll figure out where to send it. With that, let's get stuck into the results from the survey. So what I did, the first question was asking which region you're in. The respondents, 41% were from North America. From Asia, another, let's say 27%. Europe, another 24%. And then Middle East, Africa, we had about 4%. And then South America, we had about 3.7%. Really a big contribution from North America, Europe, and Asia. And Asia includes Australia and New Zealand, so I call that APAC. I used to live in Australia. So now you know which regions, percentage-wise, are represented within the survey. And that's really important. We'll show you as we go through the survey why it's important to understand slight shifts in preference depending on the region itself, and or things that are very similar globally. It's important to understand that as well. So I learned a lot from doing the survey. Next up, what the sound signature preference is. And what I did was I put here warm all the way up to bright, and I put some steps in between. So there's 5 steps in total. And you can see that globally from the respondents, about 63% of the respondents like a warm to neutral signature. Not neutral, warm to neutral. So they like their base heads like me. I would expect nothing less. My subscribers that follow my channel are generally base heads. People that pop into the channel that like bright tunings, and there's somebody here that actually responded, or a couple people that responded with bright, typically don't like my tunings. And we're going to see that in the feedback from the PEQs themselves. Take this with however you will. My tuning, by the way, what I like is not warm to neutral. I actually like it to be in between warm to neutral and neutral, just slightly warm of neutral. So that's typically where I'm aiming when doing my tunings, is to be somewhere in between there. There's people that really like a warm tuning. They don't like a lot of treble. They just like to feel the bass, hear that hard hit, hear the slam, feel the rumble. So that was about 11.6% of the respondents. And then neutral is about 11.6% as well, 11.64, so the same percentage, like a neutral tuning. And the neutral bright was 12.7, and then the bright, again, was 1%. So here's where I broke it out by region, and it became really interesting. Having lived in Asia, I had this preconceived notion that turned out to be wrong, that I thought it was the preference was going to be slightly brighter than, let's say, North America. And I was wrong. If you look at Asia Pac, which is in the upper left, you can see that warm was at almost 20%. Warm to neutral was almost 60%. So it is down slightly. So there is a difference. Let's say if you look at North America, which is in the lower right, you can see that warm to neutral is at about 65% versus about, let's say, 57% for warm to neutral. But then when you look at neutral and neutral to bright, those are actually higher for North America than they are for Asia Pac. The warm was actually quite high. The tilt that takes away from that warm to neutral actually goes into the warm within Asia. So the Asian subscribers that I have are base heads. They are really base heads. They are the basiest of base heads out of this survey. And then when I look at South America, you can see the warm to neutral shoots all the way up to 80%, but then you get a large bright spike. I didn't have a lot of respondents from South America. I had to combine that with MIA, which is Middle East Africa, because I didn't have there weren't a lot of respondents. I really need a larger sample to make a judgment call here as to what people like, because we didn't get any neutrals and we got quite a few neutral to brights. Really need a larger sample there. But when you look at Europe follows along with that same trend as Asia Pac. So now you're at 60% for the warm to neutral, and your warm is actually more than North America. The folks from Europe who are following me, you're base heads. And this was an awesome way to figure out what my subscribers like in the different regions. Next, I looked at the way that the squigs, or the frequency response, the FR, what sort of tunings people tend to gravitate gravitate towards. I started out with the V-shaped, and then I went to the U-shaped, and then I went to the W-shaped. And I started out with bass over treble, and you guys know what that means. And then let's say neutral, which would mean that bass and treble are the same heights in elevation. And then your treble over bass, which means you've got more treble energy than you do bass energy. You can see the three peaks. You've got a peak here at 16.1 for V-shaped bass over treble. You've got a peak here for U-shaped bass over treble at 21, and then you've got a peak here at W-shaped bass over treble, which is 18.3, let's say 18.4. So those three are by far the highest, or the majority of the subscribers like. They may vary whether they like a V-shaped, a U-shaped, or a W-shaped sound signature, but the majority of the people that follow my channel like slightly more bass over treble, which is how I tune my PEQs. Then the next level down, which is this darker green, is your neutral. So your neutral V-shaped is at 12.4, your neutral U-shaped is almost at 10%, it's at 9.3, and then your neutral W-shaped is at 7. And I called that meta. If you look at Project Meta, or if you look at other meta tunings, like the new Mega 7 that is meta tuned, it is a neutral tuning. So bass and treble elevations are very similar to each other. You have a wide separation happening, and then you have almost a little bit of an uplift in the mids, that create that W shape in the sound signature and that frequency response. And that's only 7% of you. So the people that follow my channel are not meta-tune folks. They are much more bass over treble if it's going to be W tune. I like a slight W tune. I like U to W, but there are sets that sound great as V. Look at the Grand Maestro. The Grand Maestro is actually tuned in a V tuning, and it is phenomenal. You know, it really depends on the driver set and the way that they've engineered the crossover and the shells, how they fit, how they sound in your ears. Really good response. And then the least was the treble over bass, and those are the blue responses that are there. And those are by far the least, let's say, preferred frequency responses. This was a surprise to see 41% of the respondents didn't use DucBloke PEQs. Like 80 people that responded to this survey, maybe they just want the free IEM, I don't know. Or maybe they're new to the channel, I don't know. Maybe they just have been shy because they're not, haven't asked for PEQs. I don't know. You should. Haven't used my PEQs. So 40.7% of you out there, please send me an email. Try the PEQs for the different IEMs that I've done it for. I've got a large library. 1 to 2, that would be almost 31% of you have used 1 to 2 of the PEQs. And then all the way, it starts to slope off, all the way out to 10 or more. So I've sent 10 or more of the PEQ settings out to, let's say, 3% of the people that responded to this survey. And you would expect that to drop off as the number goes higher. But it was really a surprise to me, like I said, that 40% of the people that responded to this, 41, haven't even tried the PEQs, and you really should. High level of satisfaction with the DucBloke PEQs. So when I send out the PEQs, I get feedback. I love feedback. And this is based on a scale of 1 to 10. And I was really happy with the response here, because remember, some people are treble heads, so they're probably not going to like the PEQs as much as the folks that like more bass. And you can see it slopes up as you go towards satisfied. So people that gave me 10 out of 10, that's about 54% of the people that tried the PEQs. And then a 9 out of 10, which is still really high, I really appreciate this, 15.8. And then 8 out of 10, still excellent result, something that's better than what it sounded like stock. That's another 15%. So you're looking at like 85% of the response here is saying that the PEQs are working great. And then it starts to tail off. Some people are neutral to it. They're like, yeah, I could take it or leave it. They select the 5 setting, 7.5%. And then if you look at people that were dissatisfied, there was no one that was like a 1, which great. But the people that were a 2, 3, or 4, there weren't that many. Again, they're probably the people that also responded that they like treble over bass. And there are probably the people that also like bright sound. I was happy to see that the subscribers were really satisfied with my response time. So everyone is satisfied with how quickly I get back to them. That was at almost 90% were 10 out of 10. I pride myself in responding quickly. Every once in a while, something gets lost in the ether, and somebody, hey, I've sent you an email and I didn't get a response, and I look for it and it winds up in my junk mail or something like that. But I quickly get back to people. 9 out of 10 is 4.2%, and then for some reason people pick neutral because they didn't really, maybe they didn't even get the PEQ and they just decided to hit neutral. And then there were, a whole bucket of people that never got a PEQ. I took that out because that does not apply, so I didn't put it in this calculation. So this is really supposed to be only for people that received the PEQs from me. Now let's look at who are your favorite top 5 YouTube reviewers. And because this is my channel, I would expect that I would rate high because most of the people that are responding are already subscribers and are base heads, and I send them PEQs. So they're sort of my duck brigade, if you will. So I got like an 81.48%. So I put that in black. Let's put that to the side. I had to put my own name in this. I had to, because if I didn't put my own name in this, people would have put my name in the other category, and then I would have had to tabulate the other category. So I put my own name in, take that out. Let's talk about the other reviewers, because I want to see who you align with. I want to see, who you really respect in the industry that I work with a lot. And the highest one is Mark Ryan. And Mark and I remember the first time I met Mark at a Can Jam many years ago, and I was like, "Oh, you're Mark Ryan," and he was so nice. And we have grown to have a great relationship where when I fly into San Francisco, he comes out, we eat burritos. We share IEMs back and forth of stuff that we have. He's really good. He's a very trusted friend in the industry. This is your response, not my response. I'm sitting there buttering him up, but just know that, he was the highest rated out of the people that follow my channel and responded to this survey. He had the highest rating at 55% of the folks think he is the bee's knees, and I do too. And then you go down to Jay's Audio. He's very popular with the number of reviews that he does. Then HBB took the number 3 spot, then Critical, then Audio Amigo. And Audio Amigo, I'm really surprised. You're going to love this, because Audio Amigo and I have only just gotten to start to know each other, but it's like we were brothers from another mother. People that like his style of reviewing, like my style of reviewing, because he's very technical. He's an engineer, and I'm very technical with how I do my reviews as well. We sort of align on a lot of things, including our sound signature. We prefer in the industry for our sounds. Plus, he's got a huge vinyl collection. I love collecting vinyl as well. He's a great guy. Andy Audio Vault. We've got Paul Wasabi here. We've got Tone Deaf Monk. We've got Zeos. We've got Jadis that round up the top 10. There were a whole bunch of others that were on this list, but I really wanted to just focus on, let's say, who were the top 10 from the respondents. And this is you guys picking it, not me. And then when we look at the APAC, so again, we look at this for regionality. Super Review goes up even higher. Wow, Mark is loved in Asia Pac because now he's at 60.78. Then you've got HBB at 49%. He's loved out of Japan. Chris, he's an awesome guy. Great relationship with him as well. Critical, had dinner with him recently. He's at 49% as well. And then Jay's Audio. So the three of them all tied for the number 2 spot. In number 3 spot, Audio Amigo again. Folks that love my small channel, we're growing, but it's a small channel, also love Audio Amigo's channel. And Omar is a fantastic guy. And then Andy Audio Vault, Paul Wasabi's, Zeos, Giz Audio, and then Jadis. So that rounds up the top 10 for the Asia Pac respondents. Then we have North America. In North America, again, Super Reviews wins out at 51.3%. Then Jay's Audio, then Critical, then HBB, then Audio Amigo, Tone Deaf Monk, Zeos, Paul Wasabi, Jadis, and Andy Audio Vault. By the way, Jadis and I, we get along great. Did karaoke with him at the last Can Jam. Zeos, great guy, brought him back a bag of beans for coffee from Vietnam. Also a great guy. Tone Deaf Monk from out of Canada. Paul Wasabi, just starting to really gel with Paul Wasabi and sending information back and forth, and he's about to get my collab. So I'm looking forward to him doing the review on that. And then Andy Audio Vault. I used to live in Malaysia. I have a great appreciation. I've contacted him a few times as well. And then last is Europe. And in Europe, again, we have Super Reviews at the top. Jay's Audio and then HBB are the top 3, but then rounding out the top 10, it's the same characters within that list. And then if I combine South America and MIA, which again, there were only like 15 respondents in total, but South America and MIA, which is Middle East and Africa, wow, Audio Amigo, they love you down there. It's probably the South American respondents. You should do this in Spanish. Oh my gosh. Imagine if you did your reviews in Spanish and you could just grow the whole community in South America. And then it's Super Reviews and then Andy Audio Vault and HBB and the usual characters. It just gets mixed up in the order. And then I agree with the alignment. So this is myself removed again. Whose ears do you align with most? This is where things kind of shift. So I'm a bit of a base head. We know that HBB is a base head. We know that Super Review is not a base head. So that's where, just because I love love the reviews that Super Reviews does, but our ears don't align. If you talk about the alignment of the sound preference, I probably most align with HBB, and I've been vocal about that. And so do my subscribers. So here's where HBB takes the number one slot at 37.5%. By a large margin, people align with HBB's ears that align with my ear that follow the channel. And then we have Audio Amigo. Again, I align with Audio Amigo really closely. Jay's Audio, I haven't really analyzed it that much, and I haven't really spoken with him. I hope to meet him one day. Clinical, Super Reviews, Zeos. And I think I align with Zeos quite well, and then Tone Deaf Monk, and then Andy Audio Vault, Paul Wasabi, and then Jadis. Now let's look at the value. So what does the most expensive price point fall into for buying an IEM? What's the most you've spent? I was really surprised by this, and I think you guys will be too. If you look at the market, 38%, that's the largest peak in green. That's between the $200 to $500 mark. Not super surprising because that's a very competitive, very popular, let's say great sounding grouping within the price range. But what really surprised me is that 73% fall between $100 and $1,000. I thought there would be far more below the $100 mark, but it drops off as far as my subscribers are concerned. The folks that fall into the, let's say, $10 to $20, there's zero. And then, which I was surprised because I thought there would be some folks out there that like their first starter set that were going to be responding. And then you've got the 20 to 50. There's a very small response. And then you've got this, you know, the 50 to 100, which only had about 5.8%. And then that triples when you go above $100. And then that doubles to triples again when you get to that $200 to $500 mark. And then I was really surprised to see that 20% have IEMs that fall between $500 and $1,000. I wasn't expecting it to be that high. And then between $1,000 to $2,000, again, I wasn't expecting it to be at 11%. And then above $2,000 is 8.5%. So there's a lot of people out there buying some very expensive IEM. How many IEMs do you have in your collection? And starting with 1 to 2, 14%, for almost 15. To sort of overlap the numbers here, I made a mistake, but please forgive me. 2 to 5, and that was the winner, where it's 38.83% of people have about 2 to 5. You jump down to 21.28% when you go from 5 to 10. So the majority of folks, on average, have about 4 to 5 sets of IEMs. But there's some crazy folks out there, and you know who you are, that have 101 and over. I called it to craziness. And that was like 1%. So there's like 2 people that responded that had more than 100 IEMs in their collection. So they are the ones that have to go to IEM rehab. But yeah, there's a lot that have, 20 to 50. 20 to 50, that's interesting that it was much higher than, let's say, 10 to 20. I guess once you reach a certain amount, like if you're between 10 and 20, you might as well do 20 to 50. And that's where it jumped up to 11.7. But I found this interesting. A lot of people have a lot of IEMs in their collection. When we look at the price, what's the average price? So where does your price fall? Not your most expensive IEM, but on average, where do you fall for your IEMs? And most of the folks, and again, I was really surprised, 42% fall in that 200 to 500 bracket for the IEMs that they're buying. And, of the people that have, like, say, 4 to 5 IEMs, most of them fall between, let's say, $100 to $500. So you're looking at like 63.5% of the folks have IEMs that fall between that $100 and that $500 mark. That seems to be the sweet spot. Below that, you've got 15%. That's the average price that they're going to pay for an IEM. And get the larger collections. Like, I've got stuff that costs $10, so I could fall anywhere. I've got stuff that costs over $2,000. I've got stuff that costs $10. Why not? Why not try everything, right? 83% of DucBloke supporters want reviews between 100 to 1,000. Am I hitting the right notes? Because when I got the comment section, what do you want to do more of? What do you want to do less of? And we're not going to talk about that in this review. This readout of the survey, we're going to have a separate readout to talk about the individual responses to more of and less of, because there's a lot. We're going to break that into 2 videos. So this one first showing the graphs. Of the subscribers, 83% want to see reviews that are between $100 and $1,000. About 50%, so 48.68%, the winning category, most of you want to see reviews that fall between $200 to $500. Some of you say, I want to see the really, really expensive stuff. Well, that's kind of hard to get. So some of that stuff is unobtainium, even for me, just to borrow it at that $2,000 and above. But almost 5% of you want. So 1 in 20 of you want to see the really, really expensive stuff. And then about 5% of you under 100, so that's combining the 50 to 100 and the 10 to 50. Combine those two together, that's about 5% of you as well want to see the less expensive stuff. And here's the thing, I can buy the less expensive stuff, but I'm only going to be hitting 1 in 20 with that effort. You got to realize that I sort of try to balance it. I try to do some cheaper stuff, try to do some really expensive stuff. Really, the sweet spot is between that 100 and 1,000, and most of my reviews fall within that $100 to $1,000 mark. And that's because that's where most of the audience, that's what they want to hear. 72% of subscribers really don't care about driver count. I was blown away. I thought people were like, oh, Valhalla, because it's got 19 BAs, it's got to be great, right? Well, there's also sets out there that have a single DD that sound fantastic. 28% of you said not important at all. I don't care what's in it. I just care how it sounds. A lot of you just said neutral. I don't care, I do care, I don't care. And so I really combine those together. That's like 72% of the audience really don't care what's inside the IEM. They care less. It's got drivers, it doesn't have drivers, as long as it sounds good. And then you start to see it go up, and there are some people that it's really important to understand exactly how many drivers are in the IEM. It starts to go up. It's funny that 9 dropped off. And I guess that's just statistically, people will choose an 8 or a 10 when they're talking about this particular topic. If you look at how people start to care, probably like 30% in total, people really care when they go up to 6, 7, 8, 9, 10%. Top brands. This is really interesting. So I put just about every, and I apologize if I skip some of the brands. That's why I said other, so that you could reply with some others as well. But I put as many brands as I could possibly think of. Which do you love their house sound the most? And the winner for this was The-Audio and Zenz. We know that Linsol, they have house brands. And we know that Zenz and The-Audio are both Linsol. Whatever they're doing there, whoever's tuning this stuff, they're doing a great job because I love it too. It came out as number 1. So Linsol, well done. Your house brands, your house sound that you have there, and ZGAT is there as well. They took the number 1 and 2 spot with their top 3 brands. You have Aufil, which is taking up number 3, which I was really surprised as well. But it's also a great brand. And then Fat Freak and Kiwi Ears, and I'm not going to go down through all of them, but you can see who the top tuners are in this, and it goes all the way down like Juzzier. I think Juzzier is fantastic, and it's down on the list there. Pennon, 7 Hertz, Alpha Omega. They're smaller brands, but they sound great, but not everyone's heard them. And that's why you're getting this sort of a response. But the stuff that's like the most popular in the community that sounds really good, I'm not surprised by The-Audio, Zenz, ZGAT, and Aufil being in this list. And then the best value for money, it was number 1 was put at ZGAT, and then Zenz, and then Kiwi Ears with their entries. And then you move on to Truth Ears, and then Crinier, SimGot. So this is the best money brands, value for money brands in the industry. And then the best customer service, Crinier. Crin's going to be happy to see this one. They're crushing it. That people like working with their company, so they must have very good customer service. I haven't really dealt with their customer service. I know their folks, so their folks are great, so they must be the customer service part of this as well. They're doing a great job. And then The-Audio and Zenz, which again fall under that Linsol umbrella, and then ZGAT, and then High-Des. I thought, wow, High-Des has done a great job. And then Dunu, and then FIO, and then High Senior. By the way, I think High Senior should be up higher than that. For me, I would put them as number 1. I think Gareth really cares, who runs that show over at High-Des. He's very humble, very excellent guy. Small shop, but they really care about their customers. So if you want customer service, that would be my vote, would be High Senior, and then SimGot, and then 7th Acoustics, Aufil, Ledsure, and so on and so forth. So you can see who people really respect for their customer service in the industry. And then most anticipated release by brand, well, it's from Zenz. I think that the T Pro and the Top Pro had such a large following this year that it's on everyone's minds. What's the next one? And the SE has been released for the T Pro. Top Pro, I'm sure, will have an SE released shortly. And then The-Audio, and then Crinier. Everyone's waiting for you, Crin. Everyone wants more stuff from you, Crin. So just so you know, you took the number 3 spot against the big boys. They anticipate everything that Crinier does. So, and he's very well respected. He just started doing his IEMs a year ago, and look at the traction that he's gotten, because they're tuned really, really well, and they're a great price point. Subscriber brands that were disappointing. The good, the bad, and the ugly, right? So we're going to show you some of the ugly. Really high response on Moondrop. So people are really down on on Moondrop right now. SimGot got a big response here, and then other specified combined were the same as SimGot, and then KZ, Tengsu, and ZGAT. So maybe there's some customer service issues, or maybe they're disappointed with the sound somehow, but that sort of makes up the top 5 that people were a little bit disappointed with in 2025. And then drivers. So which drivers do people prefer in their IEMs? Well, no surprise here that the dynamic driver let's talk about primary drivers first, right? So you can have a dynamic driver only set, you can have a balanced armature only set, you can have a planar only set, right? But you don't really get a bone conduction only, or an EST only, or a microplanar only. You do get a MEMS only, okay? So looking at this color, this light blue, these are the drivers that could stand alone. And you can see that the dynamic driver is number 1, the balanced armature could stand alone is number 2, and then the planar is number 3 in preference. And then MEMS, which is, they sound great, but they're just bringing that technology out into the IEM world. And it really is amazing what they do, but it's just not mainstream enough to have gained a higher rating in this list. And then the complementary stuff, the second tier, secondary components that go into multi-driver sets. The highest is the EST. So people still love ESTs, and I do too. I like an EST more than I do bone conduction or a microplanar, but they're hard to implement. They're expensive to implement, and that's why people go to things like microplanars. You can see there that, so you've got your EST, then the second one is the microplanar, and then the third one is the bone conduction. Fourth, I should mention this, is the piezoelectric, so the PZTs that go into IEMs. Favorite distributor or retailer, and no surprise here, because of the popularity of their brands that fall under these distribution channels. And Linsol and HiFiGo are direct competitors. Those are the 2 big Chinese brands or retailer distributors of IEM. Linsol wins by quite a bit. So it's at 42.76%. And then you've got HiFiGo at 24.34%. And then Bloom Audio on my list rated at 15.79. And I'm so lucky to have Bloom Audio just south of me. Maddie and Steve and Andrew and Jake and the whole team. They're just fantastic. So they like to lend me stuff, and I do reviews on it, and I just pick what I want and they send it to me. I'm just really lucky. I'm so blessed to have you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then Music Tech, same thing. Andrew, he's only like 30 minutes from my house. He has no problem lending me sets as well. Music Tech and Bloom Audio, is no surprise that they're here at number 3 and number 4. Then Shenzhen Audio, and then the Hangout. They're only, the Hangout is just growing their online presence. So it's no surprise. And plus, and they ship everywhere in the world. That's the thing. For anything over $100, I think shipping is free. I'm surprised that the Hangout didn't get more responses than this. But what was the biggest surprise was headphones.com. They're big, right? But of my subscribers, of people that follow me that responded to this survey, only 1.32% valued headphones.com as their favorite distributor. So I was a little bit surprised. And then Audio 46, it shouldn't say 64, I apologize for that. Audio 46, which is based here in New York. They do have a website, but it's a smaller shop, and it's no surprise. Like, there was one respondent who put that down as their favorite shop. Then the next one here is best distributor customer service. Again, talking about how you interact with them when there's a problem. Linsol, that drops down a little bit to 34.69, still the number 1. And then HiFiGo is at almost 20% at 19.73. Then you have Bloom Audio go up at 17.69, so people like working with them. They're very honest folks. Music Tech also goes up to 14.97. Andrew and his wife and his daughter, they're great people. It's just a family operation. They really are great folks. And then headphones.com actually spikes up here. As being people's favorite, it was at 1%, but as customer service, it jumps up to 6%. And that's because they have that you can return anything you've bought within a year, which is just unheard of, right? So you buy something for $1,000, you listen to it for a year, you decide you want to return it, you return it. Amazing, right? So just know that they've got that sort of policy out there. And then Shenzhen, and then the Hangout, and then Audio 46, I spelled it right there in that time, is on there as well. Most trusted distributor retailer. So most trusted. So we went from favorite to best customer customer service to now the most trusted. Linsol at 37%, you're at Hi-Fi Go at 18, you're at Bloom Audio. But here's where they do a swap. So now headphones.com become very much trusted and very much engaged in the survey at 11%. And then you have Music Tech at 8, and then Shenzhen, and then the Hangout. Again, got to get the word out there that the Hangout even exists. It's fantastic. Watch the video. And then Audio 46, if you ever go, and I wrote it wrong there again, if you ever go to New York, it's on 46th Street. That's why it's Audio 46. Check it out. And then 81% of subscribers haven't attended an audio trade show. And do it. For those of you who responded and haven't been to a Can Jam or some audio trade show, do it. Or find a group where you can get together at a cafe. Consider that a trade show. Do it. Interact with your community, and that's the best way to hear a whole bunch of different things. Only 13.9% have attended a Can Jam. I know that people live all over the world, and Can Jam isn't everywhere in the world. You got to hop on a plane a lot of times to get there. A lot of people, and Can Jam is obviously the biggest choice if you are going to attend a trade show. That's the best one. That's the end of the survey. That's the end. That's the last slide. The next part I'm going to be doing on this, again, is what did you like most and want to see more of? And I had like over 180 respondents to that. And then what would you like to see less of? And I'm compiling all that data. There's a lot of data there, so that will be a separate video. With that, please like and subscribe to the channel. We're growing again. Send me an email, ask for the PEQs, join the Duck Brigade. With that, Happy New Year. DucBloke out.
Thank you for visiting DucBloke Tuning and finding the sweet spot. Your comments are very much appreciated. Try to respond as quickly as possible. Share the PEQ settings to maximize your investment. Thank you for supporting the project.